Live. Welcome. This is the welcome. The weekly podcast where we talk about music tech news and computer tech news and general musical stuff. And we are coming to you live from our recording studio in Manchester, England. This is the Hop Pole Position. Run the intro. I listen to that intro song every week and think I really need to remix that. Because that's what I do.
Yeah, I can't hear it, so...
Because it's on the stream, yes. How are you, anyway?
I'm good. I've been...
Very tired.
Very tired. I've been over filming with Ross this afternoon, helping him sort out his setup over there. And yeah, pretty chilled, pretty good.
Cool. You'll be the best golfer who's never hit a golf course.
Oh no, this is big thing. This is his business course.
Awesome. One of our viewers on Twitch says just today got a Rodecaster Pro for his Twitch stream. That's pretty cool. I'm using a Rode pod mic right now, so yeah. I do want to look at the Rodecaster at some point. Yes.
Is that similar to the Shure thing?
I can't remember. They do a few things and the names confuse me a little. They do, yeah, it's a big box. It's kind of like an interface that does sound effects and mixing and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
But yes, hello everybody watching on Twitch. Didn't really know we had a viewership on Twitch, and I'm quite happy about that. Hello everybody.
We didn't. We do now.
Yes, I'm Adam, this is Liam, and we are podcasting on a weekly basis. Yes. Most of our viewers are found on YouTube. And there are other platforms we are on. We are on Mixer. We are on Periscope. We are on YouTube. And of course...
we have some people on Mixer.
We do. Yeah, we're growing in many, many places. This is awesome. So yeah, it's been a busy week for me in the studio. I've finally got back to making proper content. Because the whole NAMM thing is nearly done and dusted now. Mm-hmm. I've got quite a few more videos to put out on Patreon because they're all ready to go, so I'm going to do that. I'm trying to find a way to put them all on Patreon without just a flood of emails for everybody, because nobody likes that. But
put them all, can you not put them in one post?
Possibly? I'll have a look. There must be a way, because you can only put one video link into a video post, but maybe I can just put YouTube links in for the rest.
Possibly.
Yeah, we'll see. But yeah, just yesterday on Patreon, our video about the new production laptop that I'm using went out. That's going out live to the public next week. Okay. The video about the Arturia audio fuse will also be going out at the end of next week, and that's going to go up on Patreon probably tomorrow.
Cool.
Yeah, so we're starting to make progress again, which is very, very good. I've got to edit the big NAMM video, which is basically a vlog. That one's probably going to be edited by me tonight. And then I've got the NAMM song to do, and then NAMM is done. Only 4 weeks later. It's a lot of content. Yeah.
There's a lot of content.
It was indeed. Yes. And we've been reaching out to all the people who we met at NAMM, so now wheels are in motion, more wheels than a 37-ton truck. Yeah, and it's slightly dizzying in a good way. There's so much happening.
Indeed. Seen lots of new people in the studio as well.
Yes.
When you remember to turn up.
Yes. I may or may not have had an incident last week where I booked a regular client of mine in, and the date that he gave me, I put the wrong one in our online calendar.
It was alright, I was there. I got him into the studio and got him on playing on guitars, and I think he just watched Netflix for an hour or so.
Yeah, we sorted it all out. I got there, we had a great session. But yeah, my bad. We're all human at the end of the day.
Oh, dude, I called Adam up and I was like, I'll see where he is. He'll be just down the road. Call him up. I was like, you're right. All right. I was like, you don't sound like you're driving. You're not gonna like the next thing I'm gonna say to you.
No, it was just like, oh, because yeah, I already had booked another singer into the studio for that day, because I thought the other booking was on the Saturday. So he rearranged.
Oh, it's could have been worse, and they could have both turned up.
Yeah, that could have been really awkward. Lucky for me, we rearranged. So, yeah, that could have been worse. But yeah, the other guy, Danny.
So super chilled though. I mean, like he was like, "Oh yeah, it's fine. I'll just make a brew." I was like, when he came in, I was like, "Do you want me to make you a brew?" Like, because Adam's not here yet. He was like, "Yeah, sure." I went downstairs to turn the lights on the studio. Came up and he'd made himself a brew. I was like, "Just the most chilled out guy."
Yeah,
Yeah,
decent
guy,
bloke.
okay.
Those are the kind of clients I like working with the most. Just really good people. And if everybody could be a really good person, that'd just be amazing, you know. YouTube. That's what I'm looking for, a link which I'm gonna copy if I can. How do I find a hard link these days? There's a guy who I know, a guy called Danny Quinn. So he was the other guy, and he came in on Monday. And we were filming for the Audience Evo interface, which is out very soon. And so we did a load of covers on Monday, acoustic guitar and vocal. And one of them, I actually got him to record the guitar separately than the vocal, and we did a version of Street Spirit Fade Out by Radiohead. And I'm going to find the link to that and drop that in the chat, because that's not one that I can really play on stream without getting a copyright strike. But if I can get the link to it, don't need an iframe, I just need a hard link. But if I can get a link to it, I'll stick that in the chat for you to have a look at after the stream, because I'm very happy with how it turned out. In fact, I might, at the end of the stream, play you a song that I asked him to do for me, which was one of his own, which isn't currently published, so it's not going to get us a copyright flag. Which was done with a Slate ML1 and a Slate ML2 into the Evo, into an iPad. So yeah, if anyone ever says to me like, "Oh, you can't," you know, I don't have the equipment, chances are you do. Like the ML2 mics, they're $150. The Evo is going to be around that same price, and most people have already got some sort of iPhone or iPad.
Mm-hmm.
The rest of it's just excuses. I mean, yeah, you can get it better by, being in more, what's the word? Situations where you're not fighting things. You know, where when you get to the level that I work at, it's more to do with things getting out of your way. Ergonomics, ease of use.
Mm-hmm.
But that's all a lot of it really is. Modern hardware is so good now that it's come on a long way.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, great little setup.
Yeah. Oh, actually, this is a very good time to shout out our own Facebook page, because the video that I'm talking about is on the very top of our Facebook page. So if you want to go to our Facebook page at some point, after the stream maybe, and give us a like and have a look on the Facebook page, the top video there is Danny Quinn doing that cover of the Radiohead track. So yeah, check that out.
It sounds really good.
Yeah, I was very happy with it. I keep hearing it because I keep seeing people sharing it on the Facebooks and that kind of stuff. But usually when something's shared enough times, I rush to turn it off and mute it. Not because I don't like it, but because I've heard it 100 times already. Mm-hmm. And I keep just leaving it going. And that's always a sign of a good track, is, you just kind of just leave it going. Because it's kind of nice. There we go. Sorry, just adjusting my gain levels there, because I'm running into a Valve preamp stage in the Audience Sono, and if I talk too loud, it starts to fuzz up a little bit. There we go. So, what have I been up to this week? That and all the editing ever. Yeah, it's been a very busy week. I've just about finished the impulse responses that I'm doing with Jeremy from Donkeys and Demos, which is going to be out very soon. What's actually happening is he's making a set of presets for the Line 6 Helix. So he's doing all the amp setup, the configuration, all the blocks, and then he's dropping in my impulses in that. So it's going to be a bit of a joint venture, and we'll see how that goes. That's going to be good fun.
Nice.
Yes. So that's one that's been taking a little bit of my time, but that's more of a thing that I've been picking at and coming back to. But yeah, it's been... Actually, I've slept a lot this week, which has been good.
Nice.
I have had a lot to do, but I've actually spent a lot of time having a nap here and there, which means that my well-being has improved significantly. Yeah, I do like to burn the candle at both ends, but the candle was running low on wax, so... Yes, time for a good sleep. And now I'm feeling good. So, let's have a look at the news.
The news?
The news!
Is there anything happening from Behringer?
There may well be. So, there was something that was Behringer, but the Music Tech website, where I do get some of my source material from, looks like this right now. Which is kind of broke. Oh, having said that, not every article on their site looks like that. I just wanted to pull up one.
What is it, Music Tech?
Yeah, some of their articles look normal, and this is the headline this week. Is one of the articles that did, thankfully, actually work. The title of this week's stream was something to do with the future of vinyl. Yeah, the end of vinyl as we know it? ? There are only 2 factories in the world that actually make lacquers for vinyl pressing, and one of them has had a massive fire, and they were the biggest manufacturer called Apollo Masters.
Right.
The larger of the only 2 lacquer manufacturing plants in the world. Yes. So, as far as I know, what that means is not that they press the records, but they make the stuff, the kind of the goo that gets sent out to pressing plants that use that to make the records with. And yeah, so apparently a few days ago there was a devastating fire and catastrophic damage. Nobody was hurt, but it does apparently mean that a lot of the equipment was irreparably damaged. And yeah, they're not sure. They're evaluating options as they try to work through this difficult time. They are uncertain of their future. Oh dear.
That sucks.
Yeah, I mean, hopefully it's all insured, but then it could well be, especially in manufacturing, that a lot of the equipment... I know a few people in manufacturing, and what they tell me is that at large scale, when something is made, it's made as a one-off or at least a very limited run, when we're talking multi-million pound, multi-million dollar machines. And so if they stop being made at a certain point, you just can't get another one.
Yep.
Especially if it's a niche industry like this, where there's no demand for new manufacturing resources. Yeah. So it could be that the actual cost to make the equipment to do this would be untenable now.
I hope not.
Yeah. There is still another lacquer production company called MDC in Japan.
Right.
They are not currently taking on potential customers, which means to me that they're already kind of busy. So it doesn't mean that vinyl is a dead full stop, but it may well be that it either becomes much harder to acquire or much more expensive to produce because of a rarity of materials. Oh dear, oh dear, oh dear. So yeah. Treasure your vinyls, ladies and gentlemen. They may well be some of the last.
Well, let's hope not. I'm sure there'll be a way. I'm sure there will be a way.
We can go and get all the really, really bad vinyls and melt them all down. There must be millions of terrible records out there that we can squish.
Yeah.
It's like an epic version of the scene in Shaun of the Dead where they're like, nope, throw it. No, gotta keep that one. Everybody going through the collections and sell you really bad ones for £1 a time. Yeah, get $1 per rubbish vinyl and they all get melted down into new ones. Make a new campaign, recycle your vinyl.
Yeah. Destroy old music.
Well, as long as there's a couple of copies left of something, if there's something that's absolutely awful, there may be some merit to the idea.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
maybe
from one disaster to something adjacent, Pinewood Studios, famous for being where the film sets are for a lot of the James Bond stuff and some of the major films that have been made over the years, are closing their creative audio department. So I didn't even know they had a creative audio department, but apparently 18 jobs there are going to be lost. But
yeah, I used to know. What was it? It was through Mark, one of the guys that I know that used to work at ITV. Yeah, the guy that ran the studio there also had a studio in London. I forget the name of it now. But yeah, they had some decent people working there. That's a shame.
Yeah, so they were doing mixing, re-recording, editing, sound design, ADR, voice casting. Apparently, the actual facilities themselves will stay open. So they'll have dry hire, and I would imagine a lot of those people would probably go freelance, but then end up using the same facilities. I don't know exactly how that's going to work because I couldn't tell you for sure. But if the facilities themselves are going to be available and there's 18 staff with all this experience, these massive budget films are going to need people to do those jobs.
Yeah.
So it would make sense a lot of the time. I mean, it's entirely possible that some of the guys who were working there who had been salaried for a long time might well command significantly higher fees on a personal basis. So again, speculation, but it may not be the worst thing for some of the staff.
Maybe
if some of them land on their feet, and some of these people with so much experience. I mean, if I was working at a large film studio and I needed someone to do sound, and I said, well, what have you done? And he'd say, well, I worked at Pinewood Studios doing all their sound for 20 years. I'd be like, well, how much do you want?
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah. Yeah. Sound fair.
Marty V says about the vinyl, the lacquer goes on the presses before the vinyl goes on. Recycling doesn't work for that. That sucks. I wasn't entirely sure how that worked, but I'm imagining that the lacquer is kind of like hairspray for the outside.
If you let like a tortilla go stale, you could then just like poke little tiny holes in it and play that.
Yeah.
Maybe.
Could technically work.
Yeah, like why does it vinyl? Why can't they be made out of something else?
They probably could, but the actual engineering required to make an entire new method would probably be prohibitively expensive.
Could you not just do it out of a disc of just generic household like plastic, just make it out of one of them?
Could be to do with brittleness and keeping shape and stuff like that. Those bottles you've got, give one a squeeze, it moves.
No, really?
all right, smarty pants. But
wait, you said that as if I'd be surprised that a bottle would move.
All right, fair enough. But my point was then going to be try that with a vinyl record, and it won't. And despite the fact that
I've not got any bottles made of vinyl, but because they flex
very, very lightly, but think about how stiff they have to be in the grooves to retain the information.
Oh yeah, I get that.
Yeah.
Otherwise, the music would start being like,
Yeah.
Yeah.
Or it'd be like trying to run a comb over, I don't know, it's spring. Yeah. Yeah. So, yeah, it's a funny one at Pinewood, but hopefully they'll kind of land on their feet there. So there was other stuff at Music Tech. I definitely saw a news article to do with Behringer this week. I'll have to try and dig up a non-broken version. But let's just move on to Music Radar, one of our other sources, for a little while. So Softtube, who make lots of nice virtual amps, and Marshall have collaborated again to make an amp model called the Beast, which is Kerry King from Slayer's signature amp. And I've seen a few people use these in real life, and they do melt your face. So, yeah, it's a JCM 800, but it's been modded in such a way that you turn it up and up and up, and your face just melts.
Melt. Cool.
Yeah.
We like melty face.
We do. So apparently they spent time on the road with Kerry King himself.
Cool.
Yeah, capturing all his cabinet responses and all that kind of stuff of his actual gear. They're also including an original Marshall Plexi, which is like the original 60s Jimi Hendrix Marshall. So they've been doing all this kind of stuff, and they are €99 each, which, if you ask me, is a little steep. But if the sound quality reflects that, then maybe it's worth it for you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Seems cool to me.
Absolument. Yeah, so they've been getting proper vintage stuff. And we do love vintage. Here's one that I thought might be interesting, particularly for yourself. Shut up. Rode have brought out a new thing called the NT-USB Mini. It's apparently studio quality recording microphone.
HD audio.
Yeah. In a USB mic, which we've been talking about getting a proper podcast set up for your side. Maybe something like this would fit the bill, so you don't need an interface and all that kind of stuff. You literally just...
No, I want an Evo and an SM7. I am not going to rest until I have that. Yeah, this looks good.
Well, funnily enough, I'll see what we can do about the Evo. I talked to a company called Studio Care this week. Here's the SM7 in question, and I'm gonna be sending it to them for repair very soon. Because I've had a look inside and I can't see what's wrong with it, but there's no signal. And not being a qualified microphone tech, I'd like to think I'm quite handy with a soldering iron, but I don't want to make it any worse. So for the cost of a lot less than the cost of a new one of these, I'm going to send it to the guys in Liverpool and get it fixed.
Sounds good.
Yeah. I mean, if it's just a case of a couple of wires or something, then it'll probably cost less than the cost of even a cheap mic to get that sorted. So why not?
Hopefully.
Yeah. But yeah, this thing's apparently it's got zero latency. Blah, blah, blah. Zero latency monitoring mode. They're $99 for the NT USB, which I thought was quite an interesting price point. That's really quite a low price point for what that is. So we'll see. That reminds me, I do need to make a short video about this pod mic, because it has been fantastic. Oh, there's a helicopter above my house. It's like, is someone using a chainsaw next door? Oh no, that's a helicopter. I should just lean over here.
So what sort of distance would you need to be away from this?
Probably just a few inches. I mean, I've got spare pop shields, but if we didn't need one, that would be great.
Stand. Like, does it go on a mount? Can you put it on a...
I would guess that whole thing could probably go on a stand.
Right.
I'd have to look deeper into it, but it would be silly if it didn't, because to have that on a tiny little desk thing and no other options would really be silly considering that cheap Chinese mics do tend to have thread mounts. That would be very silly indeed.
Yeah.
And Rode, they're not silly people.
No.
Yeah, one of the guys in chat says the SM7B is an amazing vocal mic to go through a Neve preamp. Wouldn't say it's the best for a bright vocal, but it's a great mic. They're actually better than you think for a bright vocal if your EQ's good. And you don't need a Neve preamp either. That's just kind of an industry kind of, oh, that's just what you do. But I can tell you that most preamps behave practically identically until the very last couple of decibels of range. By the way, tonight is brought to you by Old J Cherry Rum and Coke. Feel free to drink along if you are of legal drinking age. Please drink.
I'm drinking coffee.
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 Nice.
Yeah. It's got more to do. No rest for wicked.
Oh, I've got more to do, but I'm still drinking rum anyway. Just the one. It's a double.
I don't have anything in the house. Like, all I've got is your old Jägermeister.
Really? Was that
that huge bottle?
Yeah. I thought that was confined to the annals of history.
No, it's still in my cupboard, mate.
Bloody hell.
I had some the other day. I'm not a fan of Jägermeister. I put some in my tea.
That's amazing.
It's like a 2-liter bottle of Jägermeister, whatever it is. It's mostly still there. It's at least half full, if not more.
It's still got, if I remember rightly, it's got cutouts in the back so you can hold it like a handle.
I don't know. It's got a plunger on it.
Oh, yes.
So, yeah. So I just opened the cupboard and there wasn't anything. I was having like a peppermint tea or something, and I was feeling ill, and I was like, I need some alcohol, I need a shot or something. Fuck it. So I just got my mug and just squished in some Jägermeister into my apple crush tea. It wasn't peppermint, it was apple crush.
Oh no, that sounds more interesting. Jägermeister and apple.
Yeah, it actually kind of worked. It was just like cause I was kind of like, I was looking for like a hot toddy type thing.
Right.
That was the closest I had. So it was like honey, apple crush, and some of that. And yeah, it tasted alright, but I don't think my body likes Jägermeister, so.
Yes, my body does like Jägermeister, but that's a problem in itself.
Next time you're in the studio, you should take it home.
I absolutely will. I might take it to the bar where I do live sound and be like, hey, I've got one of these, you don't have one of these. Because that is ridiculous, having pump action Jägermeister.
It is a bit.
Yeah. Anywho. I like electronic drums. You like electronic drums. We all like electronic drums. How about a Japanese taiko that's electronic? Roland have come out with one of these.
All right.
Yeah, the proper like traditional Japanese kind of.
Okay.
Yeah. So yeah, they said they takes out the maintenance and a lot of the weight and the huge sounds you can actually like practice and not upset the neighbours. So imagine how loud a taiko is and trying to practice next door to somebody. So yeah, I thought this was really cool. So yeah, you can do taiko. How long is it going to be before this is hooked up to a game? That is going to be gamified within the day when it's released. But yeah, it's got dual zone triggers, so it can trigger around the outside as well as in the center. It can also import wave files, so you can put your own samples on it. So you can have really weird noises on the front and back heads. And apparently it's got backing like rhythms that you can practice with as well.
Cool.
So yeah, I thought this was really funky. And if it wasn't $1,500, I'd get one myself. That's a lot of money for me for what that is, but I can imagine there being a big demand for this in Japan.
So, why is it special?
Because no one's ever done like a virtual electronic one before.
But could you not just put 2 electronic drum heads and like Just get some, like, I don't know, some bamboo sticks together and sellotape it. Like, why?
Maybe you could rig it all together like that, but this has got all the actual like sound electronics in there as well. And taikos are made in such a way that all the things that go around, they kind of dip in the middle so that it holds around your body properly. And
Okay.
Yeah.
Cool.
Apparently over 1 million people in Japan play taiko. That's a lot of people. So I would imagine a section of them would want this.
Mm-hmm.
And so that makes for quite a section, yeah.
Cool.
And then, yeah. And finally, for our news section, Elon Musk, our favourite billionaire goon, he made an EDM track recently, and it actually became the seventh hottest song on iCloud. SoundCloud. Bleh. SoundCloud. So yeah, that's Elon Musk for you. That he literally can do anything, and people are like, well, prove it then. And he's like, yeah, all right. But what does that say about EDM in general, that it can become like top 10 trending on SoundCloud with his first foray into EDM? Yeah. I mean, maybe in the background he paid someone a lot of money to promote it.
I mean, this is where it comes down to a lot of what I'm doing at the moment, where one of the most important things in the world right now is reach. It reach
For the
trumps,
stars.
Yeah, reach does trump everything. Like, content is king. That is true in terms of how well you can do. But ultimately, the further your reach is, you will have a element of success. If every single person in the world was exposed to your song or product or service or whatever, at least some of them would buy, and it would be a percentage. And it's a percentage. It's almost a calculation based on how good your offering is. But if your offering is nigh on the shittest thing in the world, if 7 billion people were to see it, and you were to get 0.0000001% of them to buy it, you'd still probably better retire.
Yeah.
So he's on that sort of level of almost everyone in the world's aware of him. So he does have a really big reach. So his actual talent in EDM doesn't have to match that of most other people's as a result.
I wouldn't mind betting that most of the people who heard this track heard it because of a news article about Elon Musk has made a song.
Yeah.
The cover is a picture of Mars with a Cybertruck on it. That's awful and brilliant all at once. It's like, thanks, I hate it. Yes. So, because of the one of our main news sources being kind of broken, that's the end of the news this week.
End of the news?
End of the news! So, we will come very quickly to our, what's the word? Thing of stuff. You know.
Yes, the thing of stuff.
The question time.
That's the one. It's all in there somewhere.
Yeah, it's all up in my head somewhere. So I am loading in the song from Danny Quinn that I want to show you. Because OBS has a studio mode, so I can actually do that now. Which is rather cool. But yeah, that's now loaded in. And so I'll play you that. If anyone's got any technical questions for us, as per usual, now is the time to get those in.
It's the time.
So I'm going to put this on for you, ladies and gentlemen. This is Mr. Daniel Quinn with his own song, Messed Up Bad. We did this with an Audion Evo and an iPad and 2 Slate mics. And we recorded it in a single take, 2 cameras. Have a look at this.
All because I got messed up bad. Always trying to be Jack the lad. Will only make you get messed up bad. Waking up extremely late from the night before, with all your mates falling through the door at almost 8. It's the things you love you start to hate. You can't think straight cause your head is banging. What's on your mind is how you're hanging, and I'll never drink again is what you'll say, but then you're right back on it the very next day and messed up bad. All because I got messed up bad. Always trying to be Jack the lad. Will only make you get messed up bad. Bombs and Sambuca shots makes your best mate's mum look really hot. The takeaway, he knows you name, going out a lot is what you blame. The pizza boxes and empty bottles on your bedroom floor, it's really not on. Why do we actually live this way? It's the student life, it's what they say. I messed up bad. All because I got messed up bad. Always trying to be Jack the lad. Will only make you get messed up bad. Messed up bad. Cause I got messed up bad. Always trying to be Jack the lad. Will only make you get messed up bad.
And there we go. That was Messed Up Bad by Danny Quinn. One of those songs that he kind of came up with while he was an ex-uni student. That was the story behind that one. But yeah, that's one particular song that he had that he doesn't play regularly, which is why I asked him if he would mind recording that one for me so I could use it in the Audient video without getting loads of copyright strikes and flags. So, yeah, there we go. Thank you, Danny. And so, yeah, if you check out the Street Spirit fade-out cover that we did, that's got a bit more...
Really good.
Yeah, it's got a bit more of an involved mix on that one, like because it's separate guitar and vocal. The guitar's nice and stereo, the vocals really quite heavily compressed to fit, like as you might expect on something like that. And it all fits really nicely. Like, I got a chance to use some of my favourite Verb Suite classics settings, and it all just kind of sat rather nicely, to use the proper tense. Yeah, so let's have a look. So, question from Sam Humphreys. Sometimes struggle with mixing. Where would be the first place to start in terms of noise gates, compression, EQ? So the first thing is noise gates, forget them. Forget them entirely. If you don't need them, don't use them. They shouldn't be the first thing you go to in mixing. If you do need to gate something while you're mixing, come to that when you need it. Otherwise, I don't consider that part of mixing. I consider that part of what I call pre-mixing. The way that I tend to track things is I track as a recording engineer as if it was going to tape, so a lot of the basic stuff should already be done. Beyond that, there is kind of a phase in between recording and mixing that I do, which is like, let's say that someone famous like Chris Lord-Alge was mixing a song that I'd recorded. He would want every edit to be done. He would want everything cleaned up. He'd want all the levels to be reasonable. He wouldn't want anything to sound absolutely horrible that's being sent to him. And so that's how I think there, so that when I do come to the mixing, half the job's already done without me having to be creative yet. Beyond that, I would listen to each instrument and basically just make a gut decision of, does this sound good? If the answer's no, I start cracking the EQ out until it sounds good. Beyond that, I then start to go, well, is this going to fit in a mix? Is it going to be too loud then too quiet? Does it need placing? In that case, I start to look at the compression. If it's something like an acoustic guitar, I'm probably hardly going to touch compression. If it's something like a vocal, chances are I'm going to crank the snot out of it. But then when that's done, I then look at that source again and go, well, where is it now? Has that compression brought out something that wasn't there before? Do I then need to do a bit more EQ work? And I don't go too far. Because then what I do is I put it back, if I was soloing something to listen to it, I put it back in the context of the other instruments. And then that tells me how close I am. Then something else will catch my ear and go, well, that doesn't sound very good. So then I'll look at that. And then very quickly you start to identify things that don't sound good. Like maybe on the drums, maybe on the overheads, you've got cymbals that are really quite nasty. And that stands out to you. So then you look at your overheads, you start to EQ out that nastiness, go back to the rest of your mix, look at, then something might pop out at you, like maybe the snare, it sounds like it's you're hitting a piece of cardboard with a wet sock. So then you look at that and maybe bring some EQ out there. And then it shouldn't be what comes first. It should be, what do you hear that needs to be fixed? Because generally speaking, that's all mixing really is. I mean, yes, you do get to add your particular style and your flavour in there, but within those bounds, the first thing you should be looking for is, what doesn't sound right in the context of the everything? In the context of just playing back the song, what's wrong? And then just try and listen through everything. And you'll find that as soon as you start using those EQs to take out things that don't sound right, and then you listen to the whole song again, something else will stand out, because now that thing that was really annoying you has been fixed. That's made way for something else. And very, very quickly you should find that things that annoyed you start to go away as you fix those things, or things that could do with sweetening, in your opinion, then they start to sit in the mix. And from there, then you start to find things where, say, a drum kit gets too loud, then goes really quiet because the drum is not very consistent. Then you start to bring your compressors in. The exception for me probably is vocals. I do tend to compress the hell out of vocals before I start to do much else with them. Unless it's like a gentle acoustic song, but even then I do tend to be quite heavy-handed with compressors, because that's my style, as it were. But even then, it's picking the right compressor and making sure it sounds right. But that's where I'm a bit of a compressor nerd.
Yeah.
But generally speaking, yeah. Forget noise gates. If you need a noise gate, you probably should have edited the actual audio. General exception being if you're in an absolute rush and close mics on drums need doing. Maybe throw some gates on snares and toms quickly. You can always go back and take that noise gate off and edit it manually later if you feel like it deserves that time. But in terms of your first part of your mix, very quickly just go in and just go that. What do I hear? That. Take a few minutes, go and get a brew, take a break, listen back, and go, okay, where have I got to? And then it should be a refinement process from there. And you shouldn't be fighting, because if you start fighting, then you will inevitably start struggling. And I struggled for a long time. And some of my best mixes are where I've done that and struggled, and then thrown the whole thing away and started again.
Yeah, it allows you to kind of feel your way through a piece of music.
Yeah.
In that way, and then by throwing it away, then you're giving yourself fresh ears.
Yeah.
Theoretically, if you're right the first time, you'll get back there. But in reality, what you've probably done is you almost said before, you can't hear what you can't hear anymore. You can only hear your changes.
Yeah.
you're hearing things that aren't there, and you're hearing things that you've taken out to a degree as well. Like you're thinking, okay, well that's actually there, but you're saying when you're dealing with so many different things, that makes a lot of sense. You're basically learning school fees.
Yes. Yeah.
First run through your school fees, figuring out what it is in the track where you need to play with things.
So yeah, that's it. Is don't be afraid of not only flying in and really going by instinct, and generally just start with the basics. But then when it's not working, don't be afraid to scrap it and start again, because that can be a lot quicker than spending the next 8 hours trying to refine a mix that was never going to work, when you can spend half an hour doing another mix that's perfect, or at least works for you, because there's no such thing as perfect. If you look at the actual mix setup of most, Grammy winning, not just Grammy winning, but even like modern rock and metal, like absolute jaw dropping mixes, if you actually look at the projects, they're relatively simple most of the time. Where they'll have an EQ on, say, the guitars, where it's like, here's a nasty thing, they're gone, the guitar's a little dull, let's add a little more top end, or whatever. And then they'll go to the bass and go, well, that sounds nice, but it needs compression. They'll go to the drums and be a little more heavy-handed, but then they'll actually go through and edit all the toms and maybe the snare as well to be not making any noise when they shouldn't, and there's no gate plugin involved, generally speaking. The vocals will be compression, yes. Then you'll have a couple of weird frequencies that the EQ pulls out, generally a little bit of brightness added, but not as much as you think. I used to be terribly guilty of cranking treble and everything. And then, then if the vocal's still not bright enough, it probably is bright enough, but you've got something that's fighting it, like cymbals, or the top end of guitars, or that kind of thing. Okay, so moving on. A question from Marty V. As I do most in the box, when I'm recording guitar in the live room with pedals and effects, etc., do I record a clean track always? By which I think he means a DI clean track. And the answer is surprisingly no. I used to. Depends on the band very much. And generally speaking, if a band are playing live and they've got pedals and that kind of thing in front of an amp, what I'll quite often do is I'll take a DI after all the pedals these days. Because that way, if we want to reamp it so that we've got isolation, and that's the general reason why I would reamp a guitar these days, if it's something that I recorded, I've still got all the personality and all the settings and all that kind of stuff that the guitarist already wanted. And from there, I'm just trying to get the best out of that. Double track, that is. Not sure what you're getting at there. Do you mean, like, do I record an affected track and a track without effects? In which case, no, because I always go with what the artist in the studio was going for. I don't tend to track extra non-affected stuff underneath unless that's part of the deal, unless that's part of the sound we're going for. Which I've done a couple of times. Like, if someone's got a really heavy octave effect or something like that that's absolutely killing it, I might record a non-octaved amp as well. Or something like that. Because then I've got a nice heavy distorted guitar and a really deep guitar, and I can blend the two. But that's more of a performance thing. And that, again, I'll talk to the artist and be like, that's a really cool sound, but let's play it back in the mix and you'll see there's something missing. How about? And then sometimes they'll go, well, that's cool, but I like it as it is. Sometimes they'll go, oh yeah, there is something missing, let's add that thing in. And they'll go, well, what is that thing? And I go, well, it's exactly the same part again, but without the effects. But that's only in that situation where I feel like something's missing. Quite often, the charm of a particular track is that they're doing something that I would never do.
Yeah.
And I've got to just make that work. And that, in that instance, is my job. And that's the art in the artist. Yeah, but yeah, I mean, that's always fun. I had a band a couple of years back, Proletariat, and we were using these disgusting old chorus pedals and stuff like that in front of some of their distorted guitar sounds. But that was the sound we wanted. And when we double-tracked that and had it hard left and hard right, it sounded immense. It sounded like kind of early 90s Nirvana-y type stuff. And it just had a character that I would not have, by default, have gone for. Like one of the tracks that we did, the guitar sounded immense, and he was using, I think it was a diode fuzz that on its own sounded absolutely disgusting, and I would never have picked it. But he used the same thing on both sides for a part that he'd written, and we played it back, and we all looked at each other and gave the nod, the kind of, yes. Because it worked in that situation. And that's quite often what it's all about, is if it worked, don't change it. The only time I'll take a DI is, like After Effects. And even then I very rarely ever use that again. But, like, especially if I'm recording with a band and the whole band are in the room, if it then turns out that the amp didn't work properly in the context, or at least we couldn't get what we wanted out of the amp without turning it really loud, in which case it would have bled on everything, then we might turn the amp down so it doesn't sound as good, but we know what we're going to do later, and then run it back through the amp with the volume on 10. That's the kind of thing that I would do, but not with the intention of changing everything, with the intention of it just being the best version of what we wanted all along.
Yep, I'm following you.
Yeah. The only time I would ever do stuff like that, just reamping with whole different amps, is either if I've been sent just clean DIs with get me a cool sound, or if I'm working on my own material and I'm screwing around in the studio, because that is my right to do. Because at that point, I'm the artist, and I get to mess around with my own stuff. And nobody's going to be upset. Yes.
Yeah. It's really weird. There seems to be, I don't know what it is. So it was about this time last week, my Discord decided to start doing this, where every now and then you just go quiet.
Oh, is it doing it again?
Yeah, it's really weird. I don't know what it is.
That is really weird. Huh.
It's not as bad, but it's still doing it.
I can see the audio kind of blinking a little bit on my side. I wonder if it's over here. Oh yeah, I just saw it blink then, despite the fact that I was still talking. Let's have a look at the voice and audio settings. Don't automatically... There we go. It thinks that I'm actually talking more quietly. There we go. That shouldn't drop out now. There we go. If in doubt, do things manually. Always, always my...
Yeah, it sounds like a limiter or something is not working as hard, is it?
It's just it's an automatic cutoff, so that when you've got like 10 people in-game chat, you don't get 10...
Oh, the Discord thing.
Yeah, so you don't get 10 lots of people going, you know, because when you've got gamers and that kind of thing. Yes.
Sweaty gamers.
Yeah, absolute mouth breathers. Lovely people, one and all, I'm sure. And it seems like now your side is happier with the audio. It's decided that the camera's going to go out of focus. There's always something. If in doubt, set it on manual. Yeah, there we go. Got someone on Mixer saying, Liam, are you okay?
Me? I'm fine.
Yeah. Well, there's absolutely no context for it. It could be like, hi, how you doing?
I mean, I am slightly preoccupied in the fact that I'm trying to get through some of our NAM contacts while we're on the stream.
Yeah.
Because it's been, say, we said at the beginning of the show, like since we got back from NAM, because we're away for 4 days and then I was ill for like 2 weeks afterwards. Like, I'm still playing catch up from January at the moment. It's a nightmare.
Catch up. Yeah.
We do have something fun set up for March. We're going to a factory somewhere
Yes.
in the UK, which is all we'll say at the moment. But yeah, we're going to a factory to do some content.
Not one that makes lacquer for vinyl.
No, make some British audio production gear and do some stuff. So yeah, that should be really fun. So
Yeah. I've just had a contact from a company that I'm aware of in Latvia as well,
Ooh,
which I will copy you into. They reached out to us. It seems like all the companies are doing the very same thing after NAMM, where they're all like, hey, now that we've got back and we know what planet we're on again.
Yeah, exactly.
Sam Humphreys, do you have any contacts in the industry? Just no, I'm going to stop there. Because yeah, every this is a problem that I found when I was a university student. Is everybody wants work experience, and there are not very many studios, and it's tricky. And so in the end, I just had to go without. But I can't say as I do know anybody who
Also,
would be able to do that.
go watch some Gary Vee videos and listen to what he has to say about adding value. Reach out to people, find out your area, get on Instagram, DM people, but don't just DM asking like, "Can I help you?" Figure out how you can add value to someone, and then offer value. You don't need to. Yeah, if you just call someone, I still get them like to this day. Like, if you call someone up and you think that the fact that I'm offering you free labor is essentially going to entice someone, it's not, because it's not free labor. Like, like, if you're doing it properly, you're doing it to help someone and help them grow, and it takes time and effort to help someone with work experience, because you've got to give them that experience, and you're starting from zero. So you've got to figure out how you can add value to them. What can you do that would make it so that it's a two-way street? But then secondly, also don't undervalue yourself. Like, don't just do free things because you don't have any experience. So experience is not necessarily an indication of your value. So first thing is figure out what you're worth. And then secondly, figure out how you can give that worth to someone in a way that would help both of you out. And if it's collaborative, then it's much more likely to happen. If it's a one-way street either way, it's rarely going to work out for anyone. There you go. There's some advice on that.
Probably our best case study is our other co-host on the stream, Mr. Christian Taylor. He started out with us. Yes.
His only intern whilst it was a a sandwich course.
It's almost 10 years ago now.
Yep, when we were a tiny little company, a tiny little studio. Where I don't think I was even paying myself at that point. I think you were probably on pennies.
Yeah.
And he came in late after he'd missed his thing. Is like, I've missed the deadline. I need a placement anywhere. I'll do anything. And we're like, all right, cool. Come and come and help out, and we'll see. And then next thing you know, he was a full-time member of the team.
Yeah. Well, that's it. I mean, not only was he right place, right time, but he was relentless. And that's a big thing. Be not stalkery, but don't give up after the first phone call. If somebody says, we'll see, chase it up. If they say no, that's a no. But he turned up and we said, all right, well, we'll give you a week and see how you do.
Yeah.
And
Sam, don't apologize for asking. It's a great question, and I think it's important to talk about this sort of stuff.
Yeah.
And it's also really important to listen to what I've just said, because not being a dick here, but it's good advice.
Yeah.
Like, I've been there myself. Like, when I was at university, I did work experience for free on films I worked on, a couple of features, Channel 5, sort of hour-long special documentary, a few bits and bobs, and used those. And again, I just tried to add value. Like, what could I do to? And it ended up being that one film that I was working on, the next film that they'd spoken about, they needed a Steadicam operator, and they didn't have one. So I was like, okay, cool. I'm going to teach myself how to use a Steadicam. So I spent the next 6 weeks learning how to Steadicam, because I was already able to camera up for them as like the B camera, and got my job as got the gig as the Steadicam operator for the next shoot. And then the back of that, I then met a load of crew and people and saw how they were doing their production and thought I could do this too, and then managed to use my contacts within that crew and some other abilities of mine to get enough together to make my own feature film when I was 21, and that was all through work experience. But it was again, how could I add value to the people around me? And I saw all these amazing, talented people, and I was like, cool, we can make something great together. But they need someone to basically be the ringleader. So I was basically the person that just put a load of talented people together and said, go do this. I mean, I had to write a film for it, but other than that, it was mostly just getting the best out of the people around me.
Yeah,
So,
just a small thing.
yeah, just a little bit. But yeah, just figure out what your value is, man. It's a hard thing to do as well.
Yeah.
And then how can you add that to someone?
Something that's worth probably mentioning, especially if you want to be an audio guy, is everybody in the audio industry wants to be an audio guy. What else can you do? Not because you don't want to be an audio guy, but we have to be multi-skilled these days. And yes, so if you can bring things to a company to, like, I don't know, let's say you were talking to maybe a small studio, and you said, well, I could be an audio intern. Like, yeah, I've got 5 of them. I can also do graphic design, I also do video editing, I also do web design, and they suddenly go, I need those things. When can you start?
As well. Make them a new logo. Make them some graphics for their Instagram.
Yeah.
Like, send them some stuff. Again, like, add some value. Like, showcase, like, this is what it would be like working with me. Yeah, I mean, this is a really good bit. This is one of the things I'm working with Ross. Think about what the outcome of the outcome is for them. So the outcome is you're a work experience person. Okay, great. I've got another person I've got to look after. Okay, what's the outcome of that when it's you? What is the thing that they're going to benefit from? And try and like figure out what that future is, and then sell them into that future. Sell them into the future where they would end up wanting to hiring you, not just because they want to spend more wages on the salary, but because they're able to, because they're making more money, because of the things you're able to do with them in the business, to maybe save them time in some areas so they can focus on other parts of the business, or to help promote the studio so that they can get more clients in. That's how you'll get in the door. Yeah. Outcome of the outcome.
Probably the best example I can think of there actually is me, because back in the
shit.
Yeah, whatever. Back in the day, before Hot Pole Studios existed as a company, Banter Media existed as a company, and that was at the time the only company. And so I came on board. Basically, I swung around to see Liam and catch up and have a chat, and ended up helping out with some animation, which isn't my core skill, as it were. But it was definitely something that added value. And then over time, I then learned how to be a camera operator, which I hadn't really done apart from stills. So I added value, and then the company could say, oh, we've got more than one camera operator. And then I learned how to do decent quality video editing, which then added value to the company. And so on and so forth, to the point where we could then justify having the studio, which is always what I wanted to do. But the unspoken kind of deal was that was a thing because it could be justified, because all the other things that I could bring to the company meant that we could bring in enough money that it wasn't just a financial burden to have a studio. It was a thing we did, but then everything else kept the roof up. And yeah, I
mean, and then the ultimate part of it is the fact that essentially it was I said I didn't want a business partner at the time as well, because I think we've been through this story before. But
yeah,
I wanted to be the boss, be in charge. I felt I had business partners before, so I was like, look, we're not going into a business together, but I'm not going to stop you coming and hanging out in the office and the studio. If you want to come, and if you want to help out with stuff, come out and help out with stuff, just like you were at the time. And then you just never left.
Yeah. Well, that's the other thing. Yeah, find out what's local to you. See if you can go down and say hello in person, because talking in person is a huge thing.
Yeah, and then just sit in and never leave.
Yeah.
For 10 years. He'll end up the best man at the guy's wedding.
Yeah. Oh, well, yeah, the Chris who we were talking about earlier, who was our intern, I'm going to be in his wedding band. It's kind of, it all goes round in funny little circles.
I'm going to be at the wedding, so I still count.
Oh, absolutely.
I saw him on Saturday. He's doing well.
Good.
Came over to bring the wedding invite over.
Right, I've been trying to catch up with him, but we keep missing each other by about 10 minutes.
Yeah.
Such is life when you run around like a lunatic. Yes. So what kind of video/movie does Banter do? I'll throw that one to you.
What does it say?
Question from Mar
What
TV.
kind of video/movie did Banter do? I made a film that you'll find on Wikipedia. You won't find a copy of it anywhere at the moment, though. It was an indie film that was released in a small run called Ex Cathedra back in like 2009. And then on the back of that, I came back to Manchester, got scouted to do a Converse music video, did some work with Umbro, and then formed Banter. And then, yeah, that's when I kind of met Adam. We were doing videos for like, did a video for Suzuki. We did an advert for them. We're doing just like mainly sort of sports and mainly sports videos really, bit of fashion. And then we decided we wanted to make some more money. We we started the studio and laterally grew and ended up doing web design and marketing campaigns, and that's where my life gets boring. And yeah, so if bantermedia.com, you can find the stuff that Banter does. I'm currently in the process of actually merging the business with another company. You met Charlie already, so we mentioned it briefly on the stream when we were in NAM. The rest of all that will come out in the wash this year as we're kind of figuring out our way through it all. You'll see, the studio and Graft and Banter kind of not merging, but kind of growing together. So we'll see. But yeah, it's at the moment I am working on building Graft as an agency rather than working directly with clients. We have clients we've worked with, but none that I can mention for NDA reasons. But yeah, we've done some interesting stuff, some fun stuff, but lots of really boring crap as well. And it's all the boring crap I don't want to do anymore, which is why I'm on the podcast where I'm going to NAM with Adam while we're in the studio talking about what we can do with the channel, while I'm emailing 20 different companies that we met over at NAM, because this stuff is fun. And whilst we grew the company together and it was amazing origin story of what we did, we found that as it grew to the point of being a very commercial entity where we were making some decent money, we just weren't working with the people we wanted to work with and doing the things we wanted to do. So we took stock and reevaluated, and this is us delivering on that, hopefully.
Mm. Yeah, so it's going to be a fun year. Well, it's going to be a fun.
So far, anyway.
It's going to be a fun few weeks, and then it'll be the end of the year.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, question from Twitch. Don't you think that instead of telling people to become jack of all trades, they should become much better than they currently are?
So there's not asking anyone to be a jack of all trades, and this is the thing. The Banter Media Handbook talks about T and M shaped people. And if you think that what we suggested was to be a jack of all trade, I recommend Googling T or M shaped people. This is people that have one major, so a T shaped person is someone with one really strong discipline, and then at least two other things that they can branch out to that they're able to do. And an M-shaped person is someone with actually three fairly strong elements. People like Adam and myself are definitely M-shaped people that we have. I mean, I can code to a very high level. I've worked with some of the biggest brands in the world in terms of marketing strategy, and I also direct films. I love all of those things. I've spent literally thousands of hours doing all of them. I wouldn't say I'm the best at any of those, but I also think I'm not the sort of person that would say I'm the best at anything. And having those multidisciplines allows you to grow and allows you to adapt to situations. So yeah, you don't want to be a jack of all trades, master of none. But if you think that you can just do one thing very, very well and nothing else, then in today's world, I think you're very naive, because at the very least, you need a big team of people around you. So you want to be a musician, you're going to be a singer-songwriter. If you can't use technology, if you can't promote yourself on social media, if you can't sell yourself, you're not going to get anywhere unless you can afford, or unless you're lucky to have someone that will do that for you. And that means you're relying on someone else. So if you want to be successful and you're doing it on your own, yeah, you've got to be good at more than one thing. I'm sorry if you don't like that answer, but it's the truth.
Yeah, I would say exactly the same. You do have to be a jack of all trades, but nowhere does that say master of none. Yeah, I'd like to think that I'm relatively successful because I am a jack of all trades, but I'd like to think I'm mastering.
Like a CEO.
Yeah, mastering at least one, which is the audio thing. I'm obsessed with recording, mixing, mastering. That is what I do. But I can run a YouTube channel because I can do video production, I can film, I can maintain my own website, I can do all the other things around it, and I don't have to ask other people for... Well, I don't rely on other people, that's the thing. It's good to have other people who can do all that kind of stuff if you can afford it either in money or time.
Like you're saying, so it's sort of about like being able to do some graphics for a studio, for instance, for their Instagram. That's not saying be the best graphic designer in the world and do the best social media content. That's if you're seeing a studio near you has got trash social media content and your ability in Photoshop is good enough to prove it 10,000% because you know your way around it, and they clearly are just doing things in Microsoft Word with clip art, then you're adding huge amounts of value to them and potentially could increase their marketing by a massive amount on their sales. So yeah, if you go in and you want to be a sound engineer, but you can help out by doing the social stuff to get yourself in the door and help grow the studio, and also do stuff in the studio alongside that, and that be your main job, but on the side you help out with the social because they can't afford to hire a person to do that specifically, but they need help with it. That Yeah, that's a great way to get in. That's adding value. Um, so he's spoken like a CEO. Yeah, I ran banter for a long time, and I realized that after growing up with my parents both running businesses, and therefore thinking that I wanted to run a business, that I don't actually like running businesses because there's lots of financial crap involved that is no fun. So I'm currently the chief digital officer for Graft, which is where my passion lies, in the digital techie geeky stuff.
Yeah, I've always said it. If I could do all of this for free, I absolutely would.
Yep.
But money is a thing, and as a result,
And we have.
yeah. Well, yeah. And as a result, yeah, we do what we have to pay the bills so we can have the fun. And that's one of the best things for me about what we've done over the years, is that we do have fun, and you know, we get to do things that we're really proud of. We have to do other stuff as well that can be quite tedious and time consuming, but you know, the work required to make the dream. Yeah. Yes. So, well, just before we go, because we won't be on the stream much longer, can we ask questions? Yes. If you missed the bit before, this is the section of the podcast where we take questions. So, fire away. It may be the last one or two before we log off for the week. But yes. Also, we are live every week on YouTube at 8 PM UK time on a Thursday. So if you do want to come back every Thursday for this Hot Pole Position podcast, you are more than welcome. Let's have a look at starting to get the next lot of videos out, because if I pull up my YouTube studio page, I think I've got about 7 videos that actually need to go out. Ooh, big question. Do you believe that the gender plays a big role in the music industry? If yes or no, please detail. Well, I think it does, for better or for worse, at the moment. It wouldn't be a question you would be asking if it didn't play a role in the music industry.
I think, unfortunately, that gender still plays a role in a lot of things. The pay gap is real, and everyone needs to work together to make sure that we make it less of an issue. Like, just like with lots of things, we're all just people. There's nothing that, like, ability, talent, delivery, hard work, they're the things that should define us, not anything that was as a result of anything that's beyond our control. And I think everyone's got different things, like values to bring to things as well. Yeah.
We've had employees of both genders, and we found that some people were great and some people were less great, and it never had anything to do with gender at all. No. We always tried to take on people who were not only good at what they did, but really excited about what they were going to do. And yeah, it never mattered to us. But if I look at the viewership on my YouTube channel, that's quite telling. I think it's something like 96% male, and I don't aim the content towards men, that's something I should probably make quite clear, is I'm not appealing to a demographic. That just seems to be the way that it ends up in this field. But the only way to change that, really, is to encourage younger women to do what they want to do. And if that is tech, absolutely encourage it. I think it's difficult to say, like, encourage women to be in tech or engineering or anything like that, because if they don't want to do it, they don't want to do it. But if they do want to do it wholeheartedly, be like, yes, do, go, don't let anyone dissuade you, be great. Some of the best engineers I've ever met have been women. Like Sylvia Massey is spoken about in hushed tones quite often. She's amazing. Mandy Parnell's one of the most amazing mastering engineers in the world. A woman that I know called Katie Tavini used to work for Red Bull Studios. She's now a world-renowned mastering engineer. And all three of those people I just mentioned are great because they're great, not because they're women. And I think that's the example that we should be upholding, is that be great, and if you happen to be a woman, that shouldn't be a bad thing at any point. That should never be, oh, this industry's all men or anything like that. But yeah, it's tricky.
Genetically, there's nothing that would make any difference between men and women in this industry, so why should there be any difference?
Absolutely, that's it. But the main thing that I use is my ears and my intuition. And yeah, there is literally, as far as I'm aware, there's no difference between men and women there. That's entirely, I don't know what it is that makes it to be so heavily one way or the other. But yeah, so in the end, if both genders are talented and passionate, there's little to no difference in the outcome career-wise, right? I believe that. I do. I just, at the moment at least, I think that because there's some sort of attitude where, generally speaking, as is reflected in the demographic of the channel, men seem to be interested in this, and I don't really know why. Statistically speaking, it's going to be a man that's successful in the industry, because statistically speaking, there are 95 men for every 5 women if we go off the people that watch my channel. Mm-hmm. That doesn't mean that the men are better. That just means that there are more of them. Mm-hmm. And so if it turns out that there are 10% of the industry are successful women, that's actually them outdoing the men 2-1. If we're just going off raw numbers, and I think that's a great thing. So, yeah, I definitely want to see more women in the industry, but I don't think it's something we can particularly force. I think it's something that we have to encourage from an education level, and then 10 years from now, 15 years from now, when those younger ones that have been educated come up to be more than just journeymen in the studio production world, then we'll see the change. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah. So, yeah, I do hope that it changes in the future, but how? I don't know. And if someone's got any great ideas in there, I would be very open to hearing them.
There we go.
Yes. And one last one just before we go, that I can answer quite easily, is from Sam Humphreys again. What monitors do you use in your control room? So my main monitors are Adam A7Xs. I used Adam A7s straight out of college into university. Loved them. And then so I got the A7Xs. I'm actually using 2 Adam Sub 8s with them as well. So it's actually a 2.2 full range system. So I've got full like 25 hertz to 40 kilohertz reproduction. It's wonderful. But then also I've got a pair of NS10 clones, Studio Spares SN10s, with just a cheap Samsung amp, and I use them every now and again to check references on, because they're very mid-detailed rather than full range. I don't use them to mix, as some people do, especially older engineers. I don't think there's anything wrong with older engineers using them. Their thinking processes usually stick to what you know, and they know them, so I think that's fair. But for me, I find them quite alien, and most modern sound systems don't really work like NS10s anymore. But it's worth checking them because they don't have very much low bass, they don't have a very extended top end, and so they're really good to just make sure that like vocals aren't sticking out a mile, or that you don't have a solo guitar that's melting your face. And so it's good to have them there. But I also use SonarWorks in the control room, and especially with the sub, that helps to tame a couple of resonances and dips, which that 30-40 hertz range is so hard to treat no matter what we do. We've got floating floors, floating walls, everything's really well tuned, but there's only so much you can do without spending $500,000 on sound treatment at that level. So that is that, I think.
That is that.
Yeah, for this week at least. Until the next time. So thank you for tuning in, everybody. Hope you've enjoyed the podcast this week. And we will be back 8 PM UK time next Thursday. And there will be videos going out on the channel between now and then. Probably quite a few. I'm going to be really dropping the NAMM videos to get them all out. And then, yes, I've got the 2 videos coming out next week. The one about my new laptop and talking about what you actually need in a production laptop these days. And the one about the Arturia Audio Fuse 8 Pre, which is actually so nice that I've kept it and it's gone in the rack. And yes. And then I've got a video coming out about handmade ribbon mic. I've got a video that I need to film about this thing. I've got the one that I'm filming tomorrow about the Audient Evo 4. I might actually try and get that edited tomorrow and out on Saturday, because I want to try and get the exclusive on that. That song that I played you earlier from Danny Quinn, that's going to be in that video, and that's why I recorded that. So that gives me some nice material. I usually do an SM7 test in interface tests, but unfortunately that one that I was waving at you before is broke. So I do have an SM57 that's been modified not to have a transformer, so I'll use that for the test, because that's about as similar as I'm going to get. And that's just so that I can have a microphone where I can crank the interface right to the top and see if it hisses like an angry snake at me. Oh, hopefully it won't, because modern interfaces tend not to, really. But at that price point, we will see. So stick around and see how that's gone.
Cool.
So yes, thank you very much, everybody, for tuning in. We'll see you next week. Time for the outro video, and good night.